So for the conclusion and reflection of the LuckyCat malicious executable that our team has examined, so we have determined that LuckyCat is most likely a spyware, and it can monitor the user activity as well as as well as harvest data. So some data that this LuckyCat malicious executable actually harvested will be the name of the computer as well as the group that the computer is under, and by creating a unique identification number and storing it within the registry. So this poses a serious threat to the privacy and confidentiality, as well as the security of the infected devices, as well as its users, as this LuckyCat malicious executable also masquerades as a masquerades as a Windows credential manager. So for my reflection, I learned how to be patient and persistent as through the basic dynamic analysis, the tools like red shot kept hanging, and every time we captured the registry, it always takes a really long time. So I also learned how to be persistent and to keep trying again whenever the netcat and apate DNS captures a lot of noise from the external services such as the Windows updating, Google Chrome updating, and this actually made it quite difficult to differentiate between the connections being made by the Windows machine as well as being made by the malware. From this real world analysis of the malware, I also, as it was the first time that I performed a advanced dynamic analysis using the X32DBG, I was slightly overwhelmed by having to understand the assembly code of this malicious executable and the actions it was performing. So I managed to learn how to use the X32DBG symbols tab, and as well as some Google search helped me to learn how to debug this data link library file, and where I could breakpoint for the various functions in order to help me to read and understand the process of the malware slowly.
So for my reflection, I have several learning points to talk about today. So for my first point would be that I learned to be more meticulous. So during the project, I felt that I was rushing through on the advanced static analysis, as I felt that there was a lot of code to go through. However, while rushing through, I actually missed out on several subroutines that had quite important imports, and also because I rushed through, I was not very detailed in terms of finding certain subroutines that actually mattered to the malware, and ended up finding and getting lost in several other functions and features. And but not all was in vain, as by getting lost in within the code, I also managed to gain a familiarity with assembly code. So previously, I was not very strong in understanding assembly, and I had to be frank I had to be frank, and I didn't have a strong understanding of what assembly code could do. But through getting lost within the code, I was able to actually pick up new functions that were not commonly seen in our school's malware, like all those weekly labs that we do, or like when we do malware analysis within class practicals. So, for example, one of the new features and functions that I learned was SEH prolog, which means structured exception handling. So it's actually a um, very important function in a lot of executables, as it provides exception handling support for any sort of like executable. So that was definitely very new and fresh, because this is not commonly seen or taught in the classroom. Another thing about gaining familiarity with assembly was that I managed to find more and learn more about defensive measures that the malware authors use to make sure that their code is anti like it is harder for code to be analyzed. So I think for this, I was quite lucky that I searched online and also had uh, some support from my teammate Sherlena on finding all these defensive measures within the malware's code. So third point on what I've learned is that I've learned how to use Ghidra, Cutter, and IDA within this project. So actually, two of the three tools were actually not touched before, which is Ghidra and Cutter, at least within the school syllabus. And for this project, I had to quickly pick up and learn the skills on how to use Ghidra and Cutter so that it could help with my disassembly and also decompiling of the assembly code. However, unfortunately, as you can see on the right, the picture here is actually what the decompiler output for Ghidra, and it's actually not very human readable, which was the reason why I had to learn an additional tool, which was Cutter. And I found that Cutter was more effective than Ghidra, and therefore I used Cutter within the project. So and also, I had to solve the issue of not having enough context due to inability to run programs. So initially, I only wanted to do IDA free and only use IDA free's functionalities of the graph overview and also the assembly code disassembler. But I felt that it was not enough because I was unable to run the command run the entire executable. So which means that I did not know what values that the registers or certain variables had. So I felt that most of the time when I was looking through the code, I did not know which program flow the code was actually taking. So I just looked through pretty much everything, which was quite time consuming. So out of all this, I think I've learned how to be more efficient in picking out important code because after reading through quite a lot of assembly code, I think I'm able to now, through this project, I learned how to pick up which instructions are more important and also are like they have higher potential of being indicators of what the malware actually uses. So lastly, I learned more about command and control servers. So because LuckyCat is a spyware, and after it obtains the data, it actually sends the data back through the POP3 protocol. So actually, it sends back to this command and control server, which I did not know was a thing until this project. So um, I think after knowing that that command and control servers exist, which is a server where the malware authors will actually obtain the stolen data of the computer, and then after that craft a meticulous and sophisticated tag crafted specially just for the victim computer. So I think after knowing command and control servers, um I know more about how to secure and also understand the importance of security controls in like endpoint devices like our individual host computers. Yeah. So uh, I think if these are all like my reflection points from this project, and with that, I'd like to thank you for listening in to our project explanation and also our videos so far. So thank you and have a nice day.